friends, it's Carly and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm very excited to unpack the energy that we are in right now with the recent lunar eclipse that we had in Taurus and the upcoming Sagittarius solar eclipse that we are having on December 4th, 2021. So, very soon and very exciting. So, if you're into it, stick around and we're going to dive right in. Before I do that, today's episode is sponsored by my Christmas cactus because she's gorgeous and she deserves a prominent seat in the front of the show today. So thank you. If you want to connect more with me, check out the description box. The links at the bottom let you know how to just find out more if you're into it. Let's jump right into the reason that we're here. This solar eclipse, this new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So feel free to check out the timestamps that are available in the description if you do want to jump ahead. For anybody who is coming to astrology or eclipses specifically as more of a beginner or introductory level, I want to, make it easy to get up to speed because I was in your shoes about a year ago in the same boat of brand new to astrology. There is a whole gigantic vocabulary to learn and so many archetypes of energy. And it's such a beautifully intricate system, but it can be overwhelming. So if you are a beginner, I think especially these first couple sections might be really helpful. So feel free to hang out and enjoy the long version. Otherwise, skip ahead to the specific interpretation for this upcoming eclipse. Eclipses in general are like openings, portals, like transporting yourself to a different timeline, a different dimension. It's where reality bends and our trajectories can turn on a dime. We have lots of endings and beginnings around eclipses. They were historically associated with like catastrophic events because those tragedies often spark transformation of their own. In our individual lives, in our personal experience, we can also see that playing out in terms of cycles coming to a close and new beginnings, new chapters beginning, or ourselves being called into a next chapter, even though maybe we don't fully understand what is in that next chapter or where are we supposed to go? How am I supposed to get there? All this is just a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to get into. The themes that I see with this energy, and we are going to get into the specifics and the chart and all of that. So that's coming, but just in general, the themes that are really strong in this energy is that theme of completion and the end of the cycle and a new beginning. This we're going to get into a little bit more when we talk about eclipses, but this solar eclipse is marking the end of an 18-month cycle, and in the beginning of this next year, we're moving into the next 18-month cycle. There really is a sense of completing the level that you're on, the level of healing that you're working on, the level of self-fulfillment that you're working on, whatever it is that you've been being called towards, you've made progress. So there is this cycle of one thing has to come to an end so that the next thing that you're now up to speed with and ready for can begin. New beginnings disguised as endings. Other strong themes that we see is this is a big picture energy, which is really, really helpful. A big picture towards our future self. Like, what is this next chapter that we're supposed to be walking into? We'll see how the specific energy, the stars are aligning to support us in this process of not really having all the details figured out of what our next chapter is, but walking forward anyway, which is definitely an act of courage. It is an act of self-belief. It takes tremendous confidence and self-worth and so many pieces that you have accomplished. That's what these last few years have been leading to. This is a culmination moment of all of these spiritual lessons and evolvement that you have been undertaking. It has paid off. And because of that, there is an upgrade coming for mass consciousness in general, and we'll all see it play out for our individual self as well. It is a time to remember that we can't receive the next new thing while holding on to the current things. It's a time of looking towards the future. It's a time of coming face to face with possibly uncomfortable truths about the way that we've been living, the way that we've been making our choices in our life, the priorities that we've been using, the value system that we've been using, and there's nothing we can do to change the past. But this is a time for looking towards the future and having this sense of divine commitment to the collective that I am moving into the next level of who I was born to be. Each of us, when we came forward, had a mission here on this planet. That's why we're physical. We had a reason. Really, every soul's reason is in some kind of service to the collective. And really, the way that we are of the best service is to raise our vibration as high as we possibly can. As we reach those frequencies of love and appreciation and joy and bliss, just being content and secure within ourselves, in that sense of stability that we're able to create for ourselves, every single soul that crosses our path then receives a tiny seed of that energy. That's happening all day, every day, for every single person crossing paths with another person in this whole world, animals too, where we all leave behind seeds of our energy. This, in general, is a time of asking yourself, how satisfied are you with the seeds of energy that you're leaving on the path behind you? And do you wish that those seeds were different? You know, like, is there a next level of who you were born to be, who your soul orchestrated before your life ever, before your conception, made this pathway for you to have this mission? Are you living that? Are you planting those seeds? Are those the seeds being left behind you? Is there more that you could be doing? I don't know. I'm not in your shoes. I know for me, yeah. Yeah, always there's more. So it really is a personal process of contemplation, and the act of self-actualization, the journey, the lifetime journey of self-actualization is being greatly supported with these energies that we are seeing at this time. So before I move on into eclipses, I also wanted to quickly plug the video I made introing Sagittarius season. So meaning as the sun spends these few weeks moving through Sagittarius, that energy doesn't just affect people born during Sagittarius season, it's available to all of us. So that video really aims to illustrate how basically anyone can work with the Sagittarius archetype and use that for themselves, which I highly recommend you spend some time over there in kind of a deep dive of this Sagittarius energy, because that is where this new moon solar eclipse is taking place. Okay, so eclipses. In general, like we said, eclipses are a portal, an opening into a new timeline where, you know, you stop and think, it took me however many years to get to where I am. So in a linear way, or, you know, logically, it'll take me that many years to make another big chunk of progress. And during eclipse season, things don't happen on a linear timeline. Big sudden shifts and changes can take place. This is where, yes, we are in the sign of Sagittarius, but also eclipses in general kind of offer this place to really kind of open up and relax into our faith. It is a time of opening into the next expansion of whatever it is that we're ready for. Sometimes. Sometimes we think we want something that isn't actually the next thing on our path, like we always manifest whatever we're ready for next. And so, sometimes you may miss recognizing that the eclipses are giving you exactly what you need next because you didn't manifest the exact thing that you wanted. There's an opportunity here to carve out a place to kind of rest in faith that whatever is intended for the next chapter of your soul's evolution will be unfolding for you. And that's a really gentle, receiving place to exist. So eclipses. Solar eclipses are always a new moon. So to have a solar eclipse means that the moon is right next to it and actually moves right in front of it. That happens a couple times a year. Also, and this was something that, pause for the cause on beginner level astrology, I have been through a few eclipse seasons now as I've been studying astrology, and I didn't learn this until this time. Eclipses always happen conjunct the nodes, so the south node and the north node. So usually the eclipses are happening in the same signs as the nodes are currently in, but every once in a while, and this is where I get all excited because I like it when there's not hard and fast rules. Every once in a while, though, we have experiences like we just did where we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus, a very late degree of Taurus, and the nodes are still in the early signs of Gemini and Sag. So they're still very conjunct, but they're crossed over into the next sign. It's a little bit of how cycles weave themselves together. Like if you look at the zodiac wheel as a whole, Aries energy, the archetype of Aries energy makes sense as a beginning, as the first. You come forward and you study this energy and you develop this energy, and that allows you to then move into Taurus, and that makes sense again as a second and as a follow-up to Aries, and then you ground it into reality and you get methodical about it, and you really anchor into what you believe and stabilize into your values and all of that. And once you got that going on, then you move into Gemini and you can get curious and open back up and take on new information. And then you go to Cancer and you decide how you feel about all these things that are going on. How is everything that you've built going in terms of playing nicely with your internal home life, your sense of finding and having a safe space where you feel like you can totally relax and be yourself? Does your life allow for that? So each individual zodiac energy that we see is its own chapter of our evolution. So as we see the sun move around, about once a month, it changes signs, takes a whole year to go around. That's a cycle. And these nodes, they spend 18 months in one set of signs. So for the last 18 months, we've had them in Gemini and Sagittarius. And that's why this solar eclipse in Sagittarius is the end of this 18-month cycle. And then we won't see another eclipse in Sagittarius and Gemini until 2029. So we've gone through this cycle. Also, to really understand the end, you really gotta go back, and that's something that individually I invite and I'm gonna offer to look back to. That would be about May to June of 2020. Where were you at that time? And even if it's helpful to kind of go back then again to the beginning of 2019, because that was another 18-month cycle, and see how there really is a progression. So in Gemini and Sagittarius, there is an openness, there is a willingness to be open to all perspectives and all viewpoints and all information, all knowledge. On Gemini's end, especially, just sponge it up 100%, whatever you got, I'll take it. Just can't get enough of consuming all the information and all the perspectives and all the details. And then Sag's brilliance is looking at the bigger picture, which is kind of a gut thing that happens based on your Gemini ability to be soaking up all these details. It's like they work kind of in tandem with each other. They don't do the same thing, not even close, but they do really complement each other and can strengthen each other when you have developed energy on both ends of like Gemini soaking it up, Sag taking it and finding meaning in what you learned. So this end of this cycle, Sagittarius, it's about finding the meaning in what you've learned this last year and a half. Chances are, because we're dealing with Sagittarius, and that has to do with not only our belief system, but our general philosophy on the meaning of life. And granted, like, even if you feel like I could never answer, like, what is the meaning of life? I don't know. You do. You answer it every day by the way you choose to spend your time. Your choices of how you spend your finite time says a lot about your philosophy on life. Like if you spend 60, 70, 80 hours a week working like I used to, it said a lot about my priorities and my values and what I thought was important. It speaks volumes, the way that we choose to live and the way that we choose to spend our time. So this season has been about really clarifying. These eclipses have allowed massive clarity to come through on all of this, absorbing more information about the world and our life and the environment around us. Meanwhile, illuminating what is it that you truly believe is the point of all of this. By trade, I'm a project manager. So I guess it's ingrained. Maybe it's one of my natural talents. I don't know, however you want to put it. That, like, if you don't know where you're going, getting there is impossible. Period. You're never going to accomplish it if you don't know what the end is that you're trying to accomplish, which only makes good sense to me, probably does to you too. So we're all on the same page. This cycle of the eclipses and the nodes moving through Gemini and Sagittarius, we have opened up, we've soaked in so much more information about the truth of the environment that we are living in, and we have matched that up with our developing philosophy about life and the point. What is the point of you being here and having a life on this planet? And are you living in alignment with that? Sagittarius is a fire energy. It's a mutable sign. And that is really, really helpful, going back to like this energy is supporting us to push through the awkwardness of moving from our current level to our next level, where we don't have it all figured out. We don't know necessarily how to be this person who exists at this next level, but we really want to be up there. This energy, this Sag fire energy, it lets us connect to our why, like our motivation. Why do you want to be at that next level? And for me, I've spent a lot of time with this question over these last couple years, and even just today, clarifying what is it that I want? What is it that I actually want? And what I want is to create space in this world where more and more souls can connect to their own inner power, their own inner alignment, their own sense of their mission and their purpose in this world. Anything that I can be inspired to offer along those lines, as I live it, it literally makes my life feel like it's worth living. That's what this eclipses through Gemini and Sagittarius has really been all about, is your life worth living? Do you live a life that matches your own definition of what is the point of life? Nobody else has to agree with your version, except your daily life has to match with your version. All right, so this is the chart for the solar eclipse in Sagittarius happening on December 4th. You can see that the sun and the moon are exactly conjunct at 12 degrees 22 minutes. Also in Sagittarius, we have the south node here at 1 degree and Mercury at 15 degrees. You'll have to look at your own chart to find where 12 degrees of Sagittarius is for you personally, meaning which house it's located in. For example, you see here in the chart for the exact time it's happening, it's conjunct in Sagittarius inside the third house. So that just gives you a little bit more information for you personally, how and where these energies may be manifesting in your personal development. So first up, I want to talk about Mercury playing into this. It's a very supportive energy that we have with Mercury being just a few degrees away from this solar eclipse. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And so by nature, it is said to be in detriment, quote unquote, in detriment when it's in Sagittarius. And you know that detriment has an emotionally negative connotation that makes it sound like Mercury in Sagittarius is a bad placement, or like dysfunctional placement, or not as good as anywhere else. I don't see it that way. I don't see anything as good or bad by nature. Everything is neutral. And every placement has its own superpower. So the reason that Mercury is in detriment in Sag is because they quote unquote miss the details and get lost in the dreamy bigger picture. In this case, that's super freaking helpful because we don't know the details. We don't know who we're supposed to be in this next chapter. To be able to miss the details or not let the lack of details slow us down in our conceptualization of how we're going to move into this next chapter, we are able to really just be in that bigger picture space of the dream and the feeling, the fiery, passionate feeling of who we are, and letting the flame of knowing who we are naturally ripple out into our lives. It will carry us forward if we allow it to. And like we talked about, that's going to mean having some endings as we go along. But Mercury in Sagittarius is also extremely optimistic about the future. So again, very, very supportive energy from our little buddy Mercury. The next piece I'm going to bring into this is the ruler, the planetary ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. So we will naturally want to go check and see what our buddy Jupiter is doing. And Jupiter is hanging out over here in Aquarius. Also in Aquarius, we have Saturn, but we'll come to that here in just a second. Jupiter shares a lot of the same energetic signatures as Sagittarius in terms of wanting expansion, and it's often called the benefic. I don't know how you say that word. I'm sure you've read it if you've been into astrology circles. It's like good luck and blessings and all of those things. And Sagittarius also, there's an openness and a willingness to kind of go with life as it unfolds, that mutable energy of Sag and the ability to adapt to what's unfolding. And Jupiter's energy very much has all of that baked in as well, in terms of it is what drives us to continue to expand and grow. And so to see that it's over here in the sign of Aquarius while this is going on is again very supportive, because Jupiter in Aquarius is wanting to expand our Aquarius side of being our individual self, being unapologetically individual, individualized, self-actualized. Aquarius is a beautiful mix of energy. If you haven't spent time contemplating the Aquarius archetype, I highly recommend it. It's a very peaceful place to be because there is such an embodiment of freedom. Sagittarius also includes lots of pieces around freedom and freedom to have whatever philosophy you want about life and live whatever life you want. Within Aquarius, it really almost transcends a conversation about freedom and skips to I am free, so this is me, and I don't care what you think. Take it or leave it. And that sounds really like punk rock until you also add in the piece of the Aquarius archetype that is that embodiment of freedom is ultimately honoring the diversity that is inherent in humanity as a whole. Aquarius by nature is on the outside looking in on the collective, wanting the best for the collective, because in Aquarius, we know that really deep down on an energetic level, we are all one. There's only one ultimate soul. There's only one energy that we are all ultimately extensions of. As we have each come forward as unique individual extensions of that one energy, we do have an individual self-expression that we are meant to put in this world. I emphasize that because our individual self is our gift. It is our purpose in this world. And this energy of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius is pulling that angle in even further to strengthen and stabilize our ability to begin walking as our most authentic self. Not just knowing it, but being it, which is obviously just like a further expansion of the process. So Saturn coming into all of this is our our course of study, we'll say. Saturn spends about 2.5 years per sign, so we have just begun our transit of Saturn through Aquarius, and just like we've been talking about with this Aquarius archetype, it is a time of elevating our connection to both our individual self, honoring our own individuality, but also doing that as an act of radical love to the collective to say, look, I can live as my authentic individual self, and so can you. Aquarius empowers others by embodying their own freedom in a really radical, profound, beautiful way. Okay, the next piece that I'm going to bring in is this Chiron in Aries. So if you look, Chiron in Aries is making a trine to both the moon and the sun at 12 degrees and Mercury at 15 degrees. So Chiron in Aries, so delicious. Again, this is energy that is working for us all. So even those who weren't born during Chiron and Aries seasons, like those people are in their 40s right now, and going through their Chiron return, which is like a whole thing. And I will be making a video very soon on that very subject because I have lots of friends in that age group. We are all on some level working through Chiron and Aries energy. And so taking a second to kind of unpack what that means. Chiron is the wounded healer. Long story short, I am going to get more into it in a future video. He was wounded by being abandoned by his parents at birth, being rejected and unwanted, and then adopted and very well cared for, but that initial wound of abandonment haunted him for the rest of his life. And because he endured that pain, he wanted to be able to help other people who were suffering and to help them feel better because he understood how much it hurt to be rejected like that. So he ultimately became a very gifted healer, but it was because of the severity of the pain that he had encountered. We all have Chiron somewhere in our charts. You can look for the little K, even though it's spelled with a CH. Riddle me this. I'm sure someday I'll get into the symbolism of why it's a K. But anyways, so Chiron in Aries, even if this isn't your natal placement, is about healing a wound of even the right to exist, the right to be physical, the right to have a life spark, the right to be an individual physical person on this planet. And you see how This is very interesting compared to what we've just been talking about, where all of this energy, this Sag and Aquarius energy that we've covered so far, is really wanting us to step into our individual self and how that is ultimately of service to the collective. And then you have this Chiron in Aries, which is forcing us to, well, energetically, it's creating space for us to look at any of the ways that we are holding ourselves back in terms of we don't believe that we deserve it. We inherently keep ourselves small sometimes. And this is natural. This is like a survival mechanism, you know? We figure out where and when it's safe to let our energy out into the world. And if it doesn't feel safe, we don't. Just like, you know, when you're being hunted, you hide. So if you feel unsafe, it makes sense that you would want to hide. And this Chiron in Aries energy, I mean, Chiron will stay in Aries for many years as we work through this upgrade to our sense of self and our right to get to take up space in the world. So it's helping us to feel safe and secure and like we deserve to be alive. We deserve to have a life force. We deserve to get to individualize and figure out who did we come here to be. That is going to be a process. I mean, look at, we're only at 8 degrees. 8 degrees, 33 minutes of Aries is where Chiron is at right now. It is moving retrograde, which means backwards at the moment. So it's even moving back more towards the beginning of Aries. So we're going to go through this again. So this is a time of this trine, this supportive energy. The blue lines are generally supportive. Chiron supporting this solar eclipse by bringing in the lessons that your soul has been going through this last year or two since Chiron moved into Aries, where you have already gone through a lot these last couple years to face your own worthiness issues because of how much you have accomplished energetically, how many layers of self doubt you have already removed. You are able to be more open and be more ready and be more courageous towards taking a step forward into your next level. And that's where, you know, the Sagittarius energy, the Aquarius energy are both coming together to kind of give us a push into that next level by helping us to connect to really walking our individual path is our greatest service to the collective, representing our own individual mutation out into the world, feeling secure inside that energy. That is our greatest service, our greatest work. And this work that we're doing with Chiron and Aries is so supportive to this process. It's impossible to move forward if we're still weighted down by all of our unworthiness. That holds us back. It disallows us to move forward and be who we were born to be. So, you know, we're only a third of the way through this Chiron and Aries transit. So you can imagine that these next, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, even more so, are we going to shed old layers of unworthiness and be better able to step into our own individual self to feel really confident about that. This next piece I'm going to touch on is the Venus conjunct Pluto. Venus retrogrades right around the time it gets to Pluto, and then it goes back through Capricorn, and then it comes back through Capricorn, so they'll be conjunct again. This energy, again, is so supportive to this entire process. And because of this extended conjunction, I was so drawn to this energy. I made a whole deep dive video, so please check that out if you haven't already. For the sake of this video, I'll give you the couple-minute version of Venus represents our values. So that obviously immediately ties into what we've already been talking about. And Venus in Capricorn is very serious about accomplishing whatever your soul's great work that you intended. Venus in Capricorn is one time a year that is extremely highlighted and clear and open and accessible. And to have your values align with your soul's greatest work, again, supports you in stepping forward into a path, even though you may not have it all figured out, or there may be things that you don't yet know how you're going to handle it when you get there. Venus in Capricorn says, my mission is too important to wait around for feeling like I have everything. I need to move forward and move towards my mission and trust in myself to be able to use my resources as I come to anything, trust that I'll be able to figure it out along the way. And that's Venus in Capricorn. That happens once a year, and that's a helpful, supportive time no matter what. But we also have Pluto hanging out in here at the 25-degree mark in Capricorn. Pluto moves extremely slowly. So it's basically sitting still while Venus is doing this mariachi dance all around. So Pluto is very, very transformational, very regenerative. Pluto's symbolism is like the phoenix rising from the ashes, like the cocoon that a caterpillar goes in and a butterfly comes out. And once you're the butterfly, the caterpillar actually no longer exists anymore. Just like the phoenix rising from the ashes, the old one has to burn to literal ash. And then from the ashes, the new one is born. Those are Plutonian transformations. So to have our sense of our own value system snuggling with Pluto, which is all about blowing up what is not working for you. In this sign of Capricorn, where the only thing that matters is our soul's mission and our soul's great work, the nuts and bolts of what was it that you were coming here to do. And at this time, this few months where Venus and Pluto are doing this dance in Capricorn, that's why I made a whole video about it, because it really is like a whole process of reevaluation. And again, getting really honest, not in a personal way, in more of a profit and loss. The numbers just don't make sense. It's not worth investing energy in this anymore. I have a venture that it's like, okay, so in my world right now, I have one place where if I go to work and I clock in, I make $21 an hour. And I have another place where if I go to work and I clock in, I make, well, it's not clocking in, but the hours are worth $120 an hour. So how does it feel when you spend all your time and energy at the $20 an hour place and then you come home and you don't have any energy left to put towards the higher paying place? And not to mention that the higher paying place also pays me way more than money in terms of soul level satisfaction and fulfillment and alignment and all of those things. So it's like getting really clear and honest and unemotionally deciding that my mission is of the utmost importance and I have to prioritize my very finite energy and put it towards actually accomplishing the mission that I came forth to create. So if you want more on that, definitely check out the deep dive video. Moving on to our friend Mars. Actually, Mars represents our inner warrior, our drive, our passion. It's the ruler of Aries, so the ruler of this Chiron and Aries process over here. And Mars in Scorpio is a spiritual warrior, I would say, a warrior for truth, a warrior for the truth of the emotional reality is what's coming to me there. Mars in Scorpio faces the truth, the emotional truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. I saw one interpretation that basically was like this Mars is like the soldier bringing up the rear, like making sure all the energy is moving forward, that nothing gets left behind. Because as we go through stepping into this next level, most of that came from a very emotional Scorpio season that is only, just coming to a close here in these next few weeks as Mars finally makes its way on out of Scorpio. And facing those truths that there are things in our lives where we're living against ourselves. sometimes we can bottle that up and push it down and pretend like we're okay with it. But that's if we remain on the surface. And this recent dive deep down through Scorpio season was a really deep examination of everything that we've been pushing under the surface. And it's obvious that there are things that we are ready to release. And all the healing work that we've done with Chiron and Aries, all of the new things that are absolutely on the horizon, that it only makes sense that we can't manifest the new without letting go of the old. So this Mars passionate, fiery drive coming through Scorpio and our shadows and our wounds and our soul's deepest healing, it's continuing to fuel this process forward of getting the most out of stepping into this next level, really embracing lining up with our own emotional truth and how much further that will propel us than living according to somebody else's truth. You know, Scorpio rules that place of taboo, you know, where is that society or is that socially acceptable, or is that something that you should keep to yourself? And the more we lean in to who we truly are, the more we will be rewarded with a more widely opening path. So owning our own emotional truth is very much a part of stepping into that next process. And if you see, this is making sextiles. Mars, that emotional truth, is making a sextile to this Venus-Pluto conjunction, which is also making a sextile up here to Neptune in Pisces, which we aren't going to get into in this video. I am going to make a separate video on that because Neptune moves so slowly that we've got plenty of time to explore that energy. The last thing that I'm going to bring in is this aspect with Uranus in Taurus. This is another energy that moves very slowly, and I'll have a deep dive video coming on this soon. It is also in retrograde. Right now we see the little R, so it is moving back towards the beginning of Taurus. Once it stations direct, it'll begin moving back across Taurus. Uranus, much like Pluto, is very explosive and sudden shifts and changes. Its goal, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, so remembering back to those humanitarian themes and living as your individual self, that's what Uranus wants from you. That's why it's called the rebel, because it will not be confined by anybody else's definition of the truth. That is something that is only born from going inside and being with your own soul and letting your soul tell you what is your truth. Uranus in Taurus, as a transit, it's like a 6 or 7 year process that we are, you know, as you can see, well underway. But as it makes connection with this energy of the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius, it is also providing explosive, enthusiastic support for stepping into your next level, stepping into greater harmony with your own inner self. Taurus as an archetype represents our inner animal, meaning our instincts, our connection to our body and our higher self, the wisdom of our body. Like how they say that there's, you know, something like science has proven that 14 generations worth of experiences are coded in our DNA. So that's why generational trauma is like becoming more and more of a thing where old ancestors go through life experiences and then we carry those energetic signatures inside our very being. Uranus in Taurus asks that I mean, really what it requires anytime you're working with Taurus energy is that you get quiet, that you let your thinking mind go on holiday for at least a few minutes and you slow down into feeling the sensations of your body. Taurus rules our 5 senses. So, what do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? What do you see? And my best advice for working with Taurus energy is get comfortable. Like physically get comfortable. That's Like, put on your softest sweatpants and give yourself an extra pillow, or wrap up in a blanket, or put on your fluffy socks, or make some hot chocolate or some hot tea, or like anything that you can do to get yourself to be as comfy as possible means that you had to listen to your body to get there. And the wisdom of Taurus is that in that simplicity of not thinking, just being in your body, inside the present moment, is that the ancient wisdom of millennia of ancestors will move your body for you. So release the tension, release the anxiety around having to figure everything out, and simply trust that your body knows things that you can't even possibly imagine. This is reminding me of a story, but I'm going to save it for the Uranus and Taurus video, because it's insane when we let our physical animal instincts take over. And when they do, they take over so fast that we don't even have to really think about it. We just are that. It's that kind of simplicity of our beingness, shedding and taking away any pretense. That's why Taurus gets the bad rap for being stubborn. But again, I say that's a blessing, because Taurus energy is where we ground deeply inward into our animal instincts, what we can feel in our bones to be true. And that is a deep well of wisdom, of connecting to the wisdom of your ancestors, to connecting to the wisdom of your highest self, connecting to the wisdom that is inherently yours. And we only get there by shutting off our thinking brain. And as a dominantly Gemini person, I totally get how that can maybe feel like a betrayal, but Taurus in and of itself has its own jewels to promise. And Uranus and Taurus is a season. It's a multi-year season where we are practicing connecting inwardly. So again, you can see how this is creating so much support and boosting this process of not only figuring out and illuminating the truth of who we are and who we were born to be, but then knowing that and exploring it and opening into it and letting it unfold day by day by day, and eventually embody that which you were born to be, your greatest service in the world. There's nothing better than that. And this season of this solar eclipse in Sagittarius, supported by all of this other energy, is truly a time for honoring our individual soul, our individual self-expression, our individual space that we take up in this world, falling even more deeply into understanding that if our soul didn't have a divine mission, that it wouldn't be here. So you have a divine inherent right to exist and to find your individual path, regardless of what anybody else is choosing for themselves. So let this energy hold you and support you as you open yourself towards having faith in who you were born to be, how you feel your truth, how you experience your individual self, and how you move towards becoming confident in allowing that energy out into the world. That pretty much wraps up our deep dive look into the chart for the Sagittarius new moon solar eclipse happening on December 4th or 3rd, depending on where you're located on the planet. Lots of big energy happening for the rest of this year. So I so appreciate you tuning in. Stay tuned to the channel. I'll be releasing a video specific to the Gemini full moon here pretty soon. That's super exciting, happening right next to my sun and Chrion, so good times. yeah, I so appreciate you listening and taking the time to be with these energies and open up to your own next level of individual self-actualization and taking those baby steps forward into living that and integrating it as part of your everyday life. So you can see I've lost all my light. I'll close by offering a very short blessing. If you want to close your eyes, if you want to focus deeply into your breath, just take this moment of receiving all of this energy, all of this powerful, divine support for your soul's mission on this planet. And open up into being fully seen, knowing that you are always fully seen, and that you can lean on that support from the universe, especially during this time, but really all the time, as you take the steps forward to follow your own spark of your individual self as that bubbles to your surface to be explored. Remember, no one else has to understand. It's cool if they do. Like-minded friends are always welcome. But remember, your individuality, if it wasn't going to be different and unique, you wouldn't have needed to come forward. So expect that you're different, and that you're different on purpose. And that part of this time, part of this path, is celebrating those things that make you different. The things that make you unique. The reasons that your soul couldn't just sit on the sidelines. It had to come. Had to come because it had to demonstrate this beautiful uniqueness into the world. The entire universe wanted your uniqueness to exist. But at this time, there's a clarity of feeling around who you were born to be. The more clearly we can see that, the harder it will be to ignore. Making changes can definitely be scary, but the universe has aligned this time for your uniqueness. This time needs you, and this energy supports you stepping into your soul's mission. Good times, really good times, and I couldn't be more thrilled that you're here. I would love to hear from you in the comments as to how this energy is unfolding for you personally, what openings you're seeing in your life, what next levels you're feeling your way into. Watch the channel for more videos, and until next time, you take really good care, and so will I.